All right. How's it going, everyone? My name is Chris from CCA, California. To my left or right, we have Mr. Pete Gray. How's it going, Pete?
Hey, how you doing, Chris and gang out there? Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, with everything going on in the world and all that stuff, what have you been up to during this quarantine?
Well, I've been fishing and talking on the radio,
Nice.
and and trying to do as much business as possible in a safe way and such. But yeah, it's things are uh, things are moving along. The show's probably bigger than it ever has been, just because people I think are seeking entertainment for and talking about fishing and kind of a diversion. So as far as the radio show goes, great. I feel really challenged sponsorship wise, but a lot of my sponsors are stuck with us, and unfortunately I feel real bad for those that haven't been able to be open this year, like Cedros Sport Fishing, Cedros Kayak Fishing, the Alaska Resorts, Katmai Lodge, Whalers Cove Lodge, places like that. But really excited that the San Diego sport fishing fleet got up and running, and the rest of the sport fishing fleet up and down the coast. And of course, tackle stores are booming right now because people want to buy tackle. So as far as from a standpoint of business wise, things have been fantastic. So
Excellent, excellent. You kind of hit the nail right on the head. Without sponsors, we're pretty lonely. We've got plenty of them, yourself included. Let's Talk Hookup has always been a friend of CCA, and we can't thank you
absolutely.
enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, it's the right thing to do, and I'm so glad that being on the state board too, is really important to me because CCA is our lifeline. It's our future, and a classic example of that is this AB 3030. I mean, who would be there if it wasn't for CCA? It just would have went whoop, and like, what? How'd that happen, right?
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it snuck through almost everyone's nose relatively quickly too. I think it was like 12 days it got through the assembly, which is almost unheard of.
Yeah.
And luckily we're full opposed and all that stuff right now. And we're we've got or we had the hearing yesterday, which, by the way, thank you to everyone who ended up calling in for us and speaking against AB 3030. Sadly, it didn't even come up on the floor yesterday. So we have a new meeting date, which is next Wednesday, August 12th. So we'd love to have everyone's support once again and have everyone be calling in.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody is amazing how people rallied together, and fishermen and our listeners and as such. Um, Bill Varney did a great blast on our email blast and blasted it out, and so many people responded positively and thanked us for putting him in tune with that. And I was disappointed to see that they didn't even cross the agenda after all these people went to so much effort to do that. But that's politics. That's government.
Yep, yep. Let's check in the comments here. We have a bunch of people saying hi. We have Mr. David Chavez watching. Dan Walsh, how's it going, guys? Two great members of our chapter board here in San Diego. We got Todd from TV Metal Art saying hi. What's going on, Todd? Carrie Sherwood and Costa. David Chavez, Arnie Seco. What's going on, Arnie? I know he runs or he helps out with the casting contest.
He's one of our right hand guys for sure. Arnie's a great asset to Let's Talk Hookup, and does a great job for us for sure.
Absolutely.
And he helps a lot with CCA. I know he's very dedicated for CCA too. As
absolutely.
David doing a fantastic job with the San Diego chapter too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Dan actually is firing off the first question. Pete, what's it like to be on the other side of the mic for a change?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Very different. It's a very different deal, but it's kind of fun, to be able to kind of let you guys have at me. So never done this in the 28-year plus history of Let's Talk Hookup, 28 and a half years, almost 29 now. But it's new technology, and I guess we just have to embrace it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of sponsors, Jeff Mariani's checking in. What's going on, Jeff?
Hi, Jeff.
Mr. Dave Rody's here.
All right. Hi, Dave.
Awesome. Wayne is saying hello. Hello, Wayne.
Is that the Wayne Cotto?
That is Dwayne Cotto.
Yeah, all right. Our savior.
Awesome. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Well, let's kind of get started here. Let's kind of go back in time a little bit. How for most of us know the story of Let's Talk Hookup, but for those of you joining us that aren't really familiar, what can you take us back how the show originated and how has it grown all the way up to today?
Sure, sure, absolutely. So I started the show. I was working for a radio station in Carlsbad. It was called KKOS and KCEO. I was a sales manager there. I'd been there for about 11 years and started as a sales guy and then moved up to be into management after a few years and was a sales manager kind of running the station. And it was KKOS is no longer on the air. It was 95.9. It was a like a music station, kind of an easy listening music station. And then KCEO was an AM station that did talk radio and such like that. And what we did was we sold a lot of opportunities for people to host their own shows too. So we had various shows like, financial shows and doctor shows and all kinds of stuff. So one day I had this crazy idea of just, wow, wow, what about a fishing show, right? And this is in 1991. And so a friend of mine said, well, why not? Go for it. And so we started the show in September of 1991. And the guy that came up with the name was the one and only cowboy, Gary Vanderlyke. And we actually were on a fishing trip that we used to run together. And a funny sideline story. It was called the Ahi Invitational, but it was called and this is not for air popular, but it was called the Asshole Invitational. The AHI, get it? So so only assholes were invited, and I was the head asshole at that time. So we used to go out and go fishing, and of course. A lot of good people and it was just kind of a joke and kind of fun. But we used to go out and do 1-day trips, and we moved up to like 1.5 and 2-day trips. And Gary Vanderlyke was on a trip, and I said, hey, I'm starting this fishing show, and we're gonna I need a name. So Gary came up with the name Let's Talk Hookup. So it just stuck, and then we were on KCEO from September till about January or February. And then I approached a friend of mine. I had a lot of contacts in the radio business, being in it for so long. A friend of mine that was a sales guy down at the mighty 690 at the time. And I said, hey, I should back up. First guest we had on the show was Bill Poole. And he came on the show and came up to the studio there in Carlsbad, and he goes, kid, you got something here. I know I've told this story before, and it seemed to kind of take off. And at that time, what I used to do, it was a same format, call-in talk show, different expert guest every show. And I used to have to call all my buddies. It was on at 4:00 Sunday, 4 to 5 p.m. Sunday afternoon. And I used to call my buddies at 3:30. Okay, you need to call in. And call into the show, because we really didn't have that big an audience yet, no callers and such like that. So I used to have to kind of plant callers at first. But then after a month or so, things started taking off and things started rolling. And then we moved, as it kept getting more and more popular and more people started listening. I wanted to expand the listening audience. Of course, there was no internet. There was no Let's Talk Hookup app. There was no other way to listen other than the radio, and the limitations of the radio signal of KCEO was basically just North County and a little bit into San Diego. So we went down. I cut a deal with a friend of mine who was a sales guy down at 690. We moved the show to 6 to 8 a.m. Saturday morning, which was a little bit early, that 6 o'clock hour, but it seemed to work. And it started expanding, and then we added another hour, 7 to 9. Actually, it was started 7 to 8, I believe. Okay. And then we added 6 to 8. Then we added Sunday 7 to 8. And then added Sunday 6 to 8. So that's kind of, we just kind of, as we progressed through more popularity, more sponsors, more advertising revenue to be able to support that. We expanded the show, and then I was working still as the sales manager of the radio station, and then doing this on the side. But the owner of the radio station, who was a great guy, no longer with us anymore, Jeff Chandler, told me at the start, this doesn't interfere with job. Great. Well, it started interfering with my job, and he took me out to lunch one day, and he said, "You need to kind of decide which way you want to go. You want to go stay here, or do you want to pursue your fishing show?" And I said, "Well," taking a big gulp and giving up this plush office on the lagoon in Carlsbad and a secure job, I said, "Well, I got to jump and don't go do this." So went and just quit my job and went full time into it. It was a pretty scary, risky situation, but obviously almost 29 years later, it paid off. You know, when 690 went away, of course, we moved over to 1090, which a lot of that staff went over there, and then we were able at that time to go to 7 to 9 a.m., which really was great. So adding, of course, Marty Milner in the process really helped back in the 690 days, and he was with me for 11 years, and a lot of great people. Rock God Rick, actually adding him in as the phone guy when he was 14 years old. That progressed, made the show progress quite a bit more, and so kind of a lot of history there over the many years, but just really very excited and stoked that we had the support from the listeners, the support from the advertisers, and made the show a success.
Nice. And now you've got a brand new home at 97.3 The Fan too. It seems things are working out pretty well for you.
Yeah, the Fan is great. You know, there are signal limitations for those in LA and Orange County, but that's why we created that app a couple of years ago. Thank goodness we did that before 1090 went away. And the people at the Fan have been good to us. And, you know, it's a night at home of the Padres. So right now that we finally have Padres back, that's a good thing. We're getting some new listeners from that. And yeah, but a lot of our listeners are coming on the app now, and I know people can kind of take it with them and go anywhere they want to go, and that app's really been our strong suit so far.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the app. I know I've got it on my phone and all on my devices. The beauty about an app and the live stream and all that, you know, just because in case you miss the show because you're fishing on Saturday or Sunday, it doesn't mean you kind of have to miss the show, right? You still have archives there that anyone could go back at any point in time and go listen.
That's correct. Yeah, it's archived way back, like a couple years back. And Adam Clark, who is our phone guy at the Fan and also at Mighty 1090, he's been with us for a long time. Adam does a great job in getting those archives up very quickly. And so people can, you know, they want to sleep in or they go out fishing, they can not worry about missing a show. We get a lot of people that download those onto their iPods or phones or whatever, and they take it with them in their cars and their commutes and such like that. So that's really added whole nother entity to be able to tune in, you know, anytime you want and to any show you want. You want to go re-listen to another show that you really enjoyed listening to, you can do that too. So the app is not only a live stream, it's also those archives. Of course, we're you know, you can listen to those anytime, and then of course on podcasts too. You know, can listen on Apple Podcasts. A lot of people do that rather than doing it on the app. But the easiest way is just downloading the app, and then it's all right there in one spot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And let me tell you from firsthand experience, those podcasts, those live streams of previous shows, they actually make time pass quite a bit when you're on night watch, driving all those sport boats and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. We actually did have a question come in from Todd from TB Metal Art. He says, "Hey Pete, I listen every weekend to Let's Talk Hookup. Really love the show. What is your favorite fish to catch?"
All right, so Todd, beautiful art, man. Your metal is amazing, and you've been a great supporter of Let's Talk Hookup. So thank you, Todd. you keep, I watch you on Facebook and I see your creations all the time. You're an amazing artist, and thanks for doing all that. My favorite fish to catch is yellowtail at an island. I love catching yellowtail. Either surface iron or yo-yo or live bait or whatever. One of the most fun times I had with yellowtail was last October on the Shogun. We were down at Guadalupe Island, and we were fishing for those big bad yellowtail on the pinnacles on the north end of the island. And trying to get one of those things to stop was just like a real challenge. And I got rocked so many times that I was just determined to get one of those things to the boat. And Renee, the captain of the Shogun, helped me rig up a 130-pound Iserline dropper loop rig, and we put it on a Talica 20 button down drag, so you couldn't even pull the drag off. And somehow they still managed to pull some drag off, but we finally got some to the boat. So that kind of fishing, to me, that challenge of the fishing is really great. But that's my number one. But of course, calico bass. I love calico bass fishing, and I also love tuna fishing.
Absolutely. I mean, speaking of those yellowtail, those, I don't know what it is, but they're a completely different breed down there, man. It's
Yes,
unreal.
they are. Yeah, they just have strength that no other yellowtail I've ever experienced have. Must be
yeah.
the diet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding. No kidding. Mr. Dave Rohde has a question. How's it going, Dave? You do a great job having a variety of guests on Let's Talk Hookup. Could you tell us a little bit about what goes into selecting the lineup?
That's a good question, Dave. And really, it's kind of like I get feedback from listeners. It's like, hey, you should have this guy on, or you should have that guy on. And then I also get calls from people within the industry that, hey, if there's a spot to be on, I'd love to be on. And it's a great opportunity for us as well as them, because they get to promote their business. And, and of course, a lot of our sponsors are regular guests too, which is important to support them and support what they do, because they really have a great story to tell too. So basically, I'm always open to new ideas and new guest ideas. So if any of our listeners have ideas, I'm all ears, as long as it's related to what would be interesting to our audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. James Johnson's checking in. He says, a good friend of mine used to work at your first station. His name is Ed Skirka. He is still in radio, but on the East Coast. He remembers you.
I remember Ed. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, KKOS, Yeah, that was a great place to work. The owner, Jeff Chandler, was such a cool guy. He was part of the Chandler family from the LA Times and didn't have any money worries whatsoever. So the radio station was kind of a toy for him. And but he was there every day, and just a really great guy, and really put a lot of effort and time into it. And one funny story from that radio station is he paid $72,000 for that radio station, and I'm trying to think, it was like in the late 70s, early 80s maybe, and it was a Class A FM, which is a small 3,000 watt FM radio station. And he had a sales contest for us that if we could bill in 1 month, and I started that station in 1981, 82, I think. Yeah, 81, 82. And he said, if you can bill what I paid for the radio station in 1 month, I'll send the entire staff to Hawaii. And we did it. And so he sent the entire staff to Hawaii. And then the following year, he said, if you can do it again, I'll send everybody again. And we did it again, and he did it again. So it was, that was the kind of guy he was. He was just a really cool guy to work for. And, a lot of us back then were just poor, like, sales guys that just doing our thing. So being able to go to Hawaii for free was like, it's such a treat. And the DJs and everybody got to go. So that was kind of a fun little add-on story from the old KKOS days.
Nice. That works out pretty well for everyone.
Yeah. And it's funny because that was back when there wasn't. Now radio has kind of become a lot of corporations and stuff, and like Intercom, which owns the Fan, is 250 radio stations across the country, and it has advantages and disadvantages. But back in the old days, it was kind of nice to just be able to walk in the office of the owner and just say, hey, here's what I think, right? So that was fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mr. Mike Lum's checking in. He says the Let's Talk
Mike,
Hookup. Oh yeah. The Let's Talk Hookup app is a must-have. It makes listening and catching up with the archive so easy. Only way to go. It's free and it works.
and guess whose idea that was?
Yeah.
Mike Lum. Mike Lum
Of
was the
course.
guy that said, you need to get your own app. And Mike Lum is an amazing guy, and thank you, Mike, for that. And he was the guy that said, you need to get your own app. And I go, Mike, I can't afford to do an app. It's like, $15,000, $20,000, whatever. And I was fortunate through the Mighty 1090. There was a guy that worked there that worked with a company in Seattle that introduced me to this app company that did it for us. And I was able to get it done for, it was a lot of money, but it was a lot less than $15,000. And fortunately, we were able to pull that off. And in retrospect, thank God we did, because I don't know where we'd be without it today, because a huge majority of we have about 15,000 people listening to us on the app now, and that have downloaded the app and listened to us on the app. And without that app, I don't know where we'd be today. It is certainly not where we are today, for sure. So thank you, Mike Lum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rockcod Rick's actually checking in. What's going on, Rick?
Rockcod Rick on his honeymoon.
Yeah, I noticed that. Hope you're having a good time up there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
In Montana. I think he's in Montana right now. So hope you're having fun, Ricky.
Oh yeah. David's asking, I'll leave this one up to you, Pete. Pete, who's been your all-time favorite guest or interview?
My all-time favorite guest to interview. Wow, that's a tough one, man. I would say it has to go back to Bill Poole, the original guy, because he was such a colorful guy and always had something great to say. And he was just so legendary. But there's been so many great people. I mean, so many great people over the years. Guys like Dave Pfeiffer from Shimano, who's one of the most phenomenal fishermen I've ever fished with. He is always just so knowledgeable. There's a lot of smart people in this fishing business, and a lot of people that just are so dedicated. But the real standout has to be Bill Poole.
Absolutely. He's what the kids call the GOAT, greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carlos is asking, would love to ask questions through the app when I'm listening to your guests speak.
Good idea. I've had that suggestion before, to where, we do some things where we do maybe a text or an app thing. I'll look into that. I'm sure in today's technology, I'm sure that's all possible. And I think it would be kind of fun, because like when we do the live remotes, it's really fun to have people step up to the mic and, talk about things and voice their opinions or questions and such like that. But that's a great idea, and I have to look into that, because I'm sure there's technology to be able to pull that off.
Absolutely. Well, you kind of just hit on a good point that I want to talk about. Let's talk about your live remotes. I know you have about a handful of them per year. What for those of us who have never been to one or have always wanted to go, what are they like, and what kind of a great opportunity it is to come meet you and the gang?
Yeah, for sure. And they're really fun. It's kind of like a little party for fishermen. And I want to thank everybody for wearing their masks, coming there and being really good about social distancing and being safe and putting on a good show for everybody. We just did one last Saturday, as you know, and thank goodness to you and Wayne for bringing those CCA tents, because it was a warm day and lots of sun was shining right in our faces, and those CCA tents were never more appreciated than that day. So thank you for that. Our next one being at Elkhorn Ford, which will be our finale for the Ford dealer remote, and that's Labor Day weekend, Saturday of Labor Day weekend. So that's our next one. But yeah, they're fun, and people seem to enjoy coming and asking questions and just hanging out. And it seems like a lot of people, I've been told, come to those remotes, and they make new friends, and they come and see old friends, and I see a lot of people chatting with each other, and winning great prizes and stuff like that. So yeah, they're really a pleasure to do, and they're a lot of work, and a lot of effort, and it's hard to get, especially today, it's hard to get with the sponsors to try and get enough product to give away to make everybody happy, and we thank them for that. But yeah, they're really fun things, and thanks to Bill Lippis, who's our engineer, and of course for many years Dick Warren was our engineer. He passed away, and then Isaiah, his grandson, did our remotes for us, and Isaiah was great, and now he's in medical school. So but Bill Lippis, who was the engineer at 1090 for many years, is now our engineer and does a great job. But thankful that Rockwood Rick is there with me on those, because sometimes these old bones and mine had a tendency to try and get too distracted with lots of stuff, and Ricky keeps us on track and keeps things rolling there so that's a good thing.
Oh yeah, and for those of you who have not been to a live remote, they're a must to go to, and they're really fun. It was really cool. Jack's checking in. He is asking, most of the listeners don't know that Shotgun Tom does the intro for the show. Could you tell us how you picked a radio legend?
Yeah, that's the truth. Shotgun Tom Kelly. Yeah, Shotgun Tom used to do all the bumpers, or what they call bumpers, for the Mighty 1090 and the Mighty 690 back in the day. And he's very good friends with Frank Anthony, who used to be the voice of the Padres at Petco Park, and he was also our production guy at the Mighty 1090 and the Mighty 690. And Frank and Shotgun, they play poker together, they hang out together, and basically it was kind of a favor to Frank that Shotgun Tom did that. But Shotgun's been very gracious in doing that for us, and for a reasonable price, not shotgun prices like he deserves, but he's been doing those things for us, and it's really kind of a pleasure to have him.
Awesome. Neat story. Rick is actually checking in. We're watching from our cabin on the Madison River in Montana.
Sweet.
You guys, yeah.
Hi, Dallas.
You guys
Hi, Dallas. Hi, Rick.
Yeah. How's it going, guys? Also, ask Pete if you would rather catch a 30-inch trout on a mouse fly or a 30-pound yellow on a surface iron.
Oh, man. That's a tough question, Ricky. I wish I've come close to that 30-inch trout up at Katmai Lodge. I came to 29 inches one year, a couple of years ago, but that was on a streamer pattern. But I have fished that mouse up at Katmai, which is just an amazing thing. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's kind of like surface iron fishing for yellowtail, but it's trout in a river, and you throw the mouse kind of up against the bank, and then you skid it across the water, and it looks just like a mouse. I mean, looks like a little mouse. And early in the season, before the trout get on eggs that are being laid by the salmon in the river, they're begging to eat anything, and they're ravenous. And so before the eggs are in the river, you can fish these mouse patterns, and you bump them off there, and these trout sit in against the riverbank, and they come up and boil on it like a yellowtail and eat it right off the surface. It's pretty exciting. Which one is better? You can't. They're both great. I mean, first of all, you're in such an amazing place, being on the river up in Alaska, fishing that, and the scenery is just unbelievable. But then, surface iron fishing for yellowtail, it's hard to beat that. So I would say it's a total toss-up, Rick. I can't say one's better than the other. They're both pretty awesome, and I look forward to being able to do it again. and hopefully for a long time if my shoulders can hold up.
Good answer. Good answer. Arnie's asking a question. Pete, who was your greatest fishing influence as a young angler?
My greatest fishing influence as a young angler, that's a good question, Arnie. My dad. I started fishing with my dad when I was about 7 or 8 years old. We had a boat at the Konakai Club in San Diego. Our first boat was a 38-foot Chris Craft. And we used to go fish back in the day, albacore and marlin back then. And my dad liked the fish, but I think he more so just liked being on the water. And he liked to watch my brother and I, and my mom used to actually like to fish too. And he used to like to run the boat. But my dad is the one that got me into fishing. And I can remember days of taking the boat and anchoring at South Island and Coronado and spending the night and at the south end of the Coronados. And I remember one night I used to always have a rod in the water at the Coronados when we'd spend the night. And I remember one night I hooked this giant halibut. I mean, it had to be 40 plus pounds. And we got it on the boat up on the bow. And there was no kind of way to stop the thing. So the thing started going ballistic off the gaff, and the line broke, and the fish slipped off the gaff and went in the water and lost it. I think I was 11 when that happened, or 10, and that was like one of my biggest heartbreaks of all time, was to lose that giant halibut. But that was a great memory. But I can remember some great memories catching my first marlin with my dad, and catching albacore and yellowtail, and those were good times. So we started with that 38-foot Chris Craft, and then we bought a 38-foot Tollycraft, which was a great fishing boat, and that was a beautiful boat. And then my dad got a job up in LA. My dad was in the newspaper business for many years. I was born in the Philippines, and he ran a newspaper in the Philippines called the Manila Times. And then when I was 2 months old, we moved to Riverside, and he ran several newspapers in Riverside and the area. And then we moved to San Diego, and he ran a direct mail and newspaper business in San Diego back at the time there. Then he started filling in, doing some talk radio shows. And then he actually got hired up in Los Angeles to fill in for the Joe Pine show back in the day, back on a radio station called KLAC, which was the big talk station in LA. And Joe Pine was a big deal back in the 60s, I would say 60s. And so then we moved to Los Angeles, unfortunately, and from San Diego. And my dad, and we lived on a boat in Marina Del Rey. It was actually, we had a big boat. It was an 83-foot boat. We lived on the boat in Marina Del Rey. And my dad actually had his own talk show with Joe Pine, and then he actually produced the Joe Pine TV show on Metro Media, KTLA in Los Angeles, and then he got his own radio show on KABC in Los Angeles. He was the afternoon talk show host on KABC in Los Angeles in the 60s and early 70s. And we lived on the boat, and then we lived in a condo in Marina Del Rey when my mom decided she didn't like living on a boat anymore. And actually, I used to have the school bus pick me up at the dock there when I went to school back in the day in Marina Del Rey. And my first job was a dock maintenance engineer at the Marina Del Rey Hotel. And that meant I picked up the trash on the docks and cleaned the docks and painted the docks and stuff when I was 15 and 16 years old. So, and 17. So that was kind of my early days back in the day there.
Nice. It almost seems like, whether it be newspaper or radio, media kind of runs in your family and runs in your blood.
Yes, it is. And you know what's funny is, everybody says, oh, you're a natural guy because your dad was on the radio. I never thought I'd have a talk show on the radio. That wasn't my deal. I actually, in school and junior high school, or actually high school and college, I was a pre-vet student. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I worked for veterinarians. I was a vet tech for many years. And then when I figured out that I didn't like to study, and I was no way was I going to get grades to be able to get myself into vet school, and didn't want to do that. I was still a vet tech and worked for veterinarians. And then I decided, well, this wasn't really what I wanted to do. I needed to make some more money. So I started selling pharmaceuticals to veterinarians. And so I got a job with a couple of companies, a couple of pharmaceutical companies selling, as one of my friends used to call it, puppy uppers and doggy downers. And so I used to spend my life basically in the car driving. At the time, I had territories in Riverside and LA and parts of San Diego. And then I got a regional job where I used to fly up to Oregon and Washington selling for a dermatologic vet medicine company. So, and then when I got burned out on that, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go interview at a radio station. I moved to San Diego and was working for a vet company, and I decided I was burned out on it. And I decided, well, I'm going to try radio sales. So I went and interviewed at KKOS, and they hired me as a sales guy, and kind of the rest is history, I guess they say, right?
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Wayne is asking a question. When did you meet Dave?
Wayne Kodo?
Yeah, D. Wayne. I'm going to call him that from now on.
All right.
When did you meet Dave Pfeiffer?
When did I meet Dave Pfeiffer? That's a good question. Gosh. Shimano's been our sponsor from the early days, and I'm going to say they've been with us 27, 28 years, something like that. And Dave was, I don't know that he was the president of Shimano at that time, but he was a pretty high up back then. I think Patrick G was working then, but I met Dave basically fishing with him, and I think he invited. I'm trying to recall. I can't, but I think he invited me to go fishing with he and Barry Breitenberg, and we became friends and fishing partners. And I learned so much from Dave. And Dave used to go fishing with me on my boat. I'd go fishing with him on his boat, and I mean, I learned so much from Dave and Barry too. Barry Breitenberg also. Both of them taught me a lot in the early days about fishing, and those two guys were kind of very big mentors in my fishing career back in the early days. So that was kind of how I met him. Is just basically became a fishing buddy with him.
Excellent. I mean, that seems like how most friendships kind of start off. They're usually always fishing with them at the rail or on the pier or wherever.
Oh, made so many great friends fishing, for sure, as I'm sure a lot of our listeners have too.
Absolutely. Dave has another question. The fishing industry has a great marketing strategy of giving away product as part of their advertising. It draws people to the sport, gives them incentive to go fishing. Did you have an influence in developing that smart strategy?
Well, I like to think so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we basically kind of, it was a kind of a way of incentivizing callers, kind of bribing people to call the show in the early days. Give away a prize and more people would call. Let's try that, open the phones up and let's see if anybody calls. Well, nobody's calling, right? So, okay, well, let's give them a free prize for calling. And that all of a sudden we started getting more calls, and things started happening there. So yeah, so that's kind of, we started that whole idea of incentivizing the callers by giving away product. But then the sponsors started liking that and saying, hey, this is a great way to get our name out there and to get product in people's hands. So I think it's been kind of a win-win all the way around. And yeah, we created that whole thing.
Excellent. Mark has a question. Did you ever fish Ballon Creek or Balon Creek?
Bologna Creek.
Balone Creek, sorry.
Bologna Creek, yeah. In fact, back in the day, I used to water ski up and down Bologna Creek, Bologna Creek, for those that you don't know, is a creek basically that runs adjacent to the Marina del Rey jetty. And if you come out of the Marina del Rey jetty, there's like this creek right next to Playa del Rey Beach, and that's Bologna Creek. And we used to fish in there and water ski up there. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I can't go without asking you all about field research.
Field
And
research.
oh yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. What I know it's your boat, your Pacifica.
Yep.
Um, Tell us a little bit about the boat and what do you like to do and what kind of fishing you do on that.
Yeah. So field research, of course. This is actually the third or third field research. I didn't name my first boat. I had kind of a progression of boats. I had Parker 23 when I first started in the biz, and then I had a Parker 21 and an 18, and then I have the Davis 22, and that was named Field Research also. But then I decided as I got older that smaller boats were starting to take an abusive nature on my body, so I needed to kind of go up in class. But so I looked a lot. Pete Giacalone helped me a lot from back when he was with Custler Yachts, looking for the right boat. But it was a financial thing. I really couldn't afford to spend $300,000 or $400,000 on the right boat that I wanted. So I talked to Jimmy Kingsmill, and Jimmy Kingsmill, the famous Jimmy Kingsmill, who's just an amazing, amazing fisherman. He and his dad used to own a Pacifica 36. And of course, Pacifica, for those of you who don't know, were built in Costa Mesa. They built them, I believe, from like 1972 to 1982, 84, something like that. They built, I believe, 18 or 20 36s. They built a lot of 44s. I think up in close to 100 44s. They built quite a few 40s, and they built a few 50s. So a lot of them are still around because they're tanks. They're built really, really well and very, very fishable boats. So Jimmy Kingsmill said, I found a Pacifica on Yacht World, and it was in Mission Bay. I actually flew to Texas and looked at a Riviera, and I was flying all around. We're gonna fly around looking and bringing a boat in, but Jimmy, I looked at this Pacifica, and I asked Jimmy. I said, "Well, what do you think?" And he goes, "Buy the Pacifica." I go, "Yeah, but it's not in very good shape, and it needs this and it needs that." And he says, "Buy the Pacifica." And he says, "I'm telling you, you'll put money in it, you'll put time into it, but it'll pay off in the long run." And so, needless to say, I bought the Pacifica, and after a lot of labor and a lot of time and a lot of money poured into the boat, I really have the boat dialed into what I want it today, and it is an amazing, amazing machine there for fishing, for sure. It's really a pleasure to run and a pleasure to own, and very, very fishable. So that's field research, and looking forward to the next time I get to go fishing on her, because she's a fun boat. And then adding in the Seakeeper, people, it always amazes me when people come on the boat. Seakeeper being one of our sponsors, they wanted to get a Berkeley Andrews when he was with Seakeeper. Encouraged the owners of Seakeeper to get one on my boat. I had to pay for it, but I cut a pretty good deal with them, and so I was able to afford to put that on the boat. And it is a game changer. I'm telling you, it is. You get sideways in the trough, and the boat just goes up and down. It doesn't go sideways, and it's a wow factor. It really has added a lot to that boat. It's really cool.
Absolutely. I mean, I've heard great things about that Seakeeper and just how amazing, how much different the ride would be.
Yeah, it's
Just sitting in
crazy.
the truck there.
Yeah, it
Out
is
of
crazy.
curiosity, what kind of power do you have on field research?
So I was fortunate to repower her last. It went into for repower last August, and I put the engines. My issues were the engines I had were okay. They were 1993 Cats, 3116 Cats, 350 horsepower, and they were okay, but it seemed like every other trip I had something breaking down. And I'm not a mechanic. I'm a woodworker. I can do woodworking things and stuff. And I did a lot of woodwork on the boat. I put new windows in the boat and did a lot of woodworking and that kind of stuff. I can do that kind of stuff. When it comes to engines, I cannot do that. That's just not my thing. So I finally decided I'm not getting any younger. I'm turning 65 this month. And I said, you know what? I'm going to cash in some of my retirement money and buy new engines for the boat. And so Robert Sherrill, who is a legend in repower, had repowered many boats. He repowered Bob Hoose's 36 Pacifica, and he'd done many 36 Pacificas. He had a slot to allow me to get in there before he retired, which I think he's pretty close to retiring. And he put the Cummins 380 horsepower QSB 380s 5.9s in there, and they have trolling valve brand new trolling valve transmissions with trolling valves in it, which are amazing. What a trolling valve is it basically detunes the transmission so that you can go as slow as you want to go. So we're like slow trolling baits, slow trolling flyers on a kite, something like that. Those trolling valves are awesome. But the new engines, I just broke 200 hours on them last Monday, and they're quieter. They're a pleasure to run. And every time I, knock on wood, every time I go down there and push the button, they start. So I'm really stoked with that.
Excellent. That's awesome. Yeah, Wayne and Dan Walsh are actually speaking truth to your Seakeeper there, how truly amazing it is.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get you on the boats. Check it out.
Oh, just call me anytime. I'm ready.
Right.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of move back into fishing there. I know, with Let's Talk Hookup, there's plenty of opportunities to fish with you and Rick and Corey and everyone else with the Let's Talk Hookup crew. What kind of trips are you usually offering for on the Let's Talk Hookup? Not only the contest or the casting contest, but also just organized trips, whether it's Cedros or Alaska. What kind of trips are you usually offering?
Yeah, well, we have them up on our letstalkhookup.com webpage on the trips page, but it starts with, of course, our major sponsors being the San Diego Sport Fishing Fleet and the long range boats. We've sponsored trips on the Shogun. Ricky's going on a 6-day Guadalupe trip, or hopefully Guadalupe, on the Shogun in October. Royal Star, we're doing an 8-day trip that I'm going to be going on in December on the Royal Star. We've done trips on the Royal Polaris. We've got a couple of trips on the Liberty, 2-day trips on the Liberty coming up in September, October. We do a couple of trips on the Searcher. We have one day and a half on the Searcher coming up beginning of September. I'm trying to think of what else, but a lot of long range trips and local trips that we do there sponsor. And those are, like I say, the backbone of Let's Talk Hookup are those long range and local landings that really support the program and really add a lot to the program for sure. Other things, of course, Rancho Leonero and Baja's East Cape. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do our Let's Talk Hookup trip in June, but we're going to go in October to Rancho Leonero, and we're actually doing it coinciding with our Palmas de Cortez Fall Spectacular, October 8th. And I just talked to a really good buddy of mine, Rich Top, that just came back from Palmas last week, and he said it was fantastic. He said the fishing was great. The experience was wonderful. They have a new restaurant at Palmas, a new sushi restaurant. And he says the town is opened up. The people are anxious to go fishing. So people shouldn't be cautious about going down to the East Cape right now because it's really, really great. And then, of course, Ricky and I and Dallas were able to go up to Kingfisher Charters in Sitka in June. It was kind of iffy. It was the first week they were open. And fortunately, with our negative COVID tests, we got up there and had a fantastic trip. And of course, Kingfisher has just been kind of the stronghold this summer for Alaska people going there. And they still have openings in the latter part of August and early September. We highly encourage people. Most Alaska lodges didn't open this year, but Kingfisher did, and they're doing a fantastic job. So unfortunately, Katmai Lodge, we had a trip going in July to Katmai Lodge. That had to be canceled because they didn't open this year because of logistics. were just too complicated to get the lodge open, and the native people and such like that in these smaller towns just didn't work out. Same with Whalers Cove Lodge. Whalers Cove Lodge didn't open this year, and and so we're supposed to go there next week, and so we're not going there next week. And sadly, we they're, unfortunately, because they're in such financial straits, Whalers Cove, they are no longer a sponsor this year of Let's Talk Hookup, and they no longer, they made the groups for 2021 much smaller for the lodge. Instead of taking 50, they're only going to take 28. So we're not able to put together our Let's Talk Hookup Davis boat groups anymore to the lodge for 2021. So we're hoping they come back in 2022, which I think they will, because we've done very, very well for them. But we've added a new travel sponsor for 2021, and that's Queen Charlotte Safaris. Probably a lot of you have seen them on Sergio's Anglers Chronicles, and Valerie, who owns the lodge, does a great job, and I've heard wonderful things about it. So we've actually put together a trip next August 2021 to Queen Charlotte Safaris, which that's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm trying to think of where else am I missing. Of course, Cedros kayak fishing. We're hoping Jeff gets things together. There's still a possibility, he tells me, in October that we might be able to get some trips down to Cedros. And then, of course, Rosie at Cedros Sport Fishing. Most of the trips are canceled this year, and maybe, hopefully, September, October, maybe we can get some trips going down there. But certainly, now Jeff told me that his June trip for Cedros kayak fishing, Let's Talk Hookup trip, is already sold out. So if you're thinking about booking for 2021 on Cedros kayak fishing, Cedros sport fishing, any of the travel lodges, Rancho Leonero, Palmas de Cortez, Whalers Cove, we're not doing one there, but Queen Charlotte Safaris, Katmai Lodge is already sold out, but they do have for our 4-day, but we do have a 3-day trip for Katmai Lodge that it does have openings in prime time July. And then, of course, Kingfisher Charters. People are going to travel next year. So I'm just cautioning everybody, if you want to go, book early, because an example of that is what Jeff told me, is that his 2021 June trip for Cedros kayak fishing is already sold out.
Absolutely. Speaking of Jeff at Cedros kayak fishing, he just hit me up for next year at 2021, as his schedule is already filling up, as is your trip. So that's definitely the case.
You should go, Chris. You'd love it. It's an awesome experience.
Oh, well, this year was actually going to be my very first year going down there, and of course, COVID. So next year, it's all going to be, it's game on.
Yeah, for sure.
Alex is checking in. Bass are biting in Dana Point.
Awesome.
Good news.
Alex, the sports barber. Hey, Alex. Best barber in the world right there. Wish he was closer. Yeah. Hey, is Alex open? Is he cutting hair outside?
I'm not sure. Alex, if you want to chime in, let us know. Please do.
Yeah.
Jack says, Pete, what is your favorite surface iron to fish at the islands?
Oh, I like a Tatty 45. Those are great. It's always been a Tatty 45 guy. Of course, I have to let Rick pick it out for me, so I find one that swims.
Of course.
And I also put a plug in for our friend One Cool Tuna, Jeff. His surface irons, the Z-Bar, great iron. I've caught a lot of yellows on that too. So.
Absolutely. As of high. Jeff's a really good friend of CCA as well.
Yeah, he is.
He actually just got back off a 6-day trip recently. So
nice. Jeff, probably on the Vagabond. I know he goes with Mike a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Second question, what color?
I like scrambled egg. Number one for me, for sure. Yeah,
okay.
Both yo-yo and surface iron. I like scrambled egg.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up here, if anyone has any questions for Pete, make sure you leave them in the comments below. Pete, I know we've got kind of a busy weekend here coming up. You've got the show in the morning, which we'll all listen to, but we also have a big event on Sunday.
Yes, we do. Yeah, indeed. So this weekend, of course, Ricky's out of town on his honeymoon, and hope he and Dallas are going to enjoy every minute of it. I'm sure they will. Corey Sandin will be co-hosting with me, and should be awesome. We're going to have Jeff from H&H Marine, and then Dan from Freedom Boat Club on Saturday, and then Sunday, Andrew Viola from the Pacifica is going to join us. Andrew's a great guy and a fantastic fisherman. He literally is stepping off the Pacifica on Sunday morning and walking into my office, which is our studio, on Sunday morning. So you talk about fresh dope on Sunday, that's going to be from Andrew on Sunday morning. So join Corey and myself Saturday and Sunday, a couple of great shows. Jeff is super knowledgeable about fixing your outboards and engines and such like that. He does a lot of work on my boat, and he's a great guy and runs a great outfit over there. And then, of course, 1 o'clock, we'll all be attending the Captain Rollo's Kids at Sea, Friends of Rollo, big used tackle sale at Dana Landing in Mission Bay. That's going to be a fantastic event. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine the quantity of tackle that is going to be there. Mike Lum says there's trailers full. And this is really good stuff too. So there's going to be a lot of people there, but there's going to be a lot of bargains to be had. So I'll be there helping out, and we hope everybody comes to that for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been hearing the same thing, and I just can't wait. I just can't wait to see everything all out there. And not to mention that CCA will actually also be there too. Me and Wayne and the San Diego chapter are going to be there in a booth right before the sale begins. So make sure you stop by the booth, come check us out, and come say hi. We'd love to talk to you guys.
Awesome. That'll be great. All right. Yeah, that's going to be a good day. 1 o'clock on Sunday at Dana Landing. It's actually going to be set up on the sidewalk, Mike Lum tells me, right in front of Fast Lane Kayaks there. So right next to Dana Landing. So just along that whole area there, because Dana Landing's a busy space, so they're going to move it kind of just right there. But you can't miss it. Just get down to Dana Landing and Fast Lane Kayaks, you can't miss it.
And absolutely. And I have to stress enough, please bring a mask to wear. They're not going to let you in without a mask.
Yeah, you will not be permitted to shop unless you have a mask.
Awesome. Well, just scrolling through the comments here. Gary White's checking in. How's it going, Gary?
The Iron Man himself, Gary White, our backbone for the shows. Gary is a huge, as well as a lot of other guys, but Gary is the #1 guy when it comes to supporting us for Fred Hall Long Beach and Fred Hall Del Mar. He does such an amazing job, and couldn't do it without Gary. He is truly the Iron Man. I keep telling him, late in the evening, go home, Gary. It's time to go home. No, he won't go home till the last dog is hung, or whatever they say.
Oh yeah. Carrie Sherwood's checking in. She's going to see us on Sunday at Dana. Looking forward to it, Carrie.
Carrie does a great job with the social media for Rollo, and thanks for that, Carrie. Appreciate that.
Oh yeah. Well, Pete, it was great talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on. How do we, as far as Sunday or Saturdays and Sundays, how do we get a hold of you? How do we check out Let's Talk Hookup?
The best thing to do is to download that app. It's free. It's on the Google Play Store or the App Store if you're an iPhone or iPad user. App is #1 for sure. Way to listen and to stay in touch with what's going on with Let's Talk Hookup. Of course, our website, letstalkhookup.com, is always there. You feel free to email me too if you want. Pete at letstalkhookup.com is my email. That's on the website too, as well as the app. Then, of course, you can tune us in on the Padres station, which is 97.3 The Fan, 97.3 FM The Fan, and of course Saturday and Sunday 7 to 9 a.m. And thanks, Chris. Thanks, Wayne, for all you guys do for CCA and for the entire community. You guys are a tremendous asset, and thanks for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough, Pete. We'll definitely see you on Sunday. We'll hear your voice there on Saturday and Sunday on the show.
Indeed. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name's Chris from CCA. That's Pete from Let's Talk Hookup. We will see you guys next week. Take care, Pete.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Take care. Bye.